223. That is the number of confirmed tornadoes the United States has recorded in June 2026 alone, with 4 days still left in the month as of this morning. The monthly average for June is 212. We have already blown past it. And the SPC's Day 4 through 8 outlook, issued at 3:09 a.m. CDT yesterday morning, is already flagging severe storms as possible across the northern plains on Sunday, in a broad pattern with a trough persisting over the northwest or northern Rockies and a ridge over the plains for the foreseeable future. That is not a seasonal forecast. That is the SPC telling you the engine is still running. Now here is the number that should stop you cold. Illinois, one state, 149 confirmed tornadoes as of June 17th alone, breaking the state's all-time annual record with nearly 2 weeks of June still remaining. The previous record was 142, set in 2024. Illinois state climatologist Trent Ford confirmed it. One state has produced more tornadoes this year than most entire seasons in other states. And it is not even July yet. Something has snapped in the American atmosphere, and the data says it is not snapping back. It is Friday, June 27th, 2026, day 178 of the year, and today I am not here to walk you through just one storm system. I am here to make the case, using verified, documented official data, that the 2026 severe weather season has crossed a threshold that separates it from every recent year in the historical record, and that the pattern driving what just happened is the same pattern that is going to keep driving what comes next. Let me prove it. Let me start with what happened 6 days ago, because it is the clearest expression yet of what has snapped in the 2026 pattern, and because a lot of people outside the immediate impact zone have not fully heard this story. On Sunday, June 21st, a tornado outbreak killed at least 3 people and left a path of destruction across Illinois and Indiana. Nearly 3 dozen tornado reports were logged by the Storm Prediction Center in Illinois and Indiana alone as supercell thunderstorms roared across the region. The Illinois tornadoes were on top of what had already been a record active year for the state. The 149 confirmed tornadoes as of June 17th had already broken Illinois' previous annual record of 142 set in 2024. And then June 21st added more. The human toll was specific and gut-wrenching. In Kansas, one person was found dead in Sedgwick County after a manufactured home was blown off its foundation by an EF2 tornado. The county issued a statement. The NWS confirmed the rating. In Gibson County, Indiana, nearly 30 homes were damaged, some completely destroyed, including a farmstead that lost the house, barn, and everything on the property. And in Owensville, Indiana, the nearly 100-year-old Blythe Chapel was destroyed, a structure that had stood for a century, gone in minutes. Some sirens in Owensville and Princeton did not sound during the event because of old age. Those are now being replaced, and the system is being updated so it can be activated directly by the National Weather Service. That is the kind of infrastructure gap that costs lives. But the tornadoes were not even the only story of June 21st. Simultaneously, a continuous path of wind damage from southwest Kansas into Oklahoma was caused by a long-lived and powerful thunderstorm cluster, a derecho. The National Weather Service confirmed it in a preliminary report. The derecho produced wind gusts over 80 Mount Tremors when it first erupted Sunday evening in southwest Kansas. By the time it raked through western and central Oklahoma after midnight Monday morning, wind gusts were topping 100 miles per hour. In El Reno, Oklahoma, 6 homes were damaged, 3 reduced to what a city spokesperson described as piles of rubble. A BNSF train derailed overnight Sunday in Woodward County, Oklahoma, during the most powerful segment of the thunderstorm cluster. Tornadoes in Illinois and Indiana, a derecho producing 100 mile-polar gusts in Oklahoma, 3 deaths, 30 homes destroyed in a single Indiana county, a century-old chapel gone, a train derailed, all on the same night. And the WPC's short-range forecast discussion, issued at 3:26 a.m. EDT Thursday, June 25th, opened with this headline: Heavy rainfall and severe storms continue across portions of the central U.S. the next few days. The word continue. Not begin, not return, continue. Here is the piece of this season's story that I want to spend real time on, because it explains not just what happened on June 21st, but why June 2026 has been so dramatically different from May 2026, and why the pattern shows no sign of resolving. May 2026 was well below average, only 119 confirmed tornadoes, with just 3 rated EF2 or stronger. The Wikipedia documentation of the May through June 2026 tornado season is explicit about why. The ongoing transition from La Niña to El Niño suppressed severe weather due to a weaker subtropical jet stream and little wind energy in the upper atmosphere to help thunderstorms rotate, while the northern branch of the jet stream remained in Canada. Persistent troughing in the eastern United States and severe drought conditions across the high plains led to cool, dry air spreading across the central United States for much of the month. May was quiet because the atmosphere was in transition. The jet stream was in the wrong place. The energy was locked up north or suppressed. Then June arrived and the atmosphere snapped. The same Wikipedia source confirmed it. June has been significantly more active, with at least 223 tornadoes confirmed thus far, with a heavy concentration in the Midwest, slightly above the monthly average, and produced in an atmosphere that has been operating with almost continuous forcing. What changed? 3 things happened simultaneously at the June transition. First, the jet stream shifted northward and strengthened, bringing its energy directly over the plains, the Midwest, and the Great Lakes. Exactly the geography that June climatologically targets as the severe weather belt migrates north from the springtime southern plains configuration. The NWS Chicago confirmed this documented pattern. The lower Great Lakes region has been a hotspot for severe weather so far in 2026, with a corridor from eastern Iowa into southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois being remarkably active. The SPC outlooked at least part of the NWS Chicago forecast area for severe weather on 15 separate days through April, including an unusual number at enhanced or higher. Second, El Niño's influence on the jet stream began to be felt measurably. The developing Super El Niño. We have been documenting since May is now producing a detectable impacts on the atmospheric circulation pattern. El Niño's strengthening of the Pacific jet stream pumps energy into storm systems, tracking across the central U.S., and slows the eastward progression of weather systems, creating the stalling and training convection that has been responsible for so much of the season's flash flooding damage and providing the dynamic forcing that has been repeatedly organizing supercells and derechos across the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Third, and most critically, the atmospheric moisture has become almost inexhaustible. The WPC's short-range forecast discussion from June 25th described it with a phrase that should be read carefully. An abundance of Gulf moisture and an unstable air mass will interact with a few slower-moving disturbances in frontal boundaries, setting the stage for several organized clusters of thunderstorms the next few days. The word abundance, not adequate, not sufficient. Abundant Gulf moisture interacting with disturbances, producing organized clusters, persisting for days. That is not a temporary spike in activity. That is a pattern that is locked in and is sustaining itself. And the Fox weather reporting from June 26th, yesterday, confirmed the specific metric that quantifies how extraordinary this has become. Data tracking preliminary severe storm logs from June 1st through June 16th reveals that the nation is experiencing its second fastest start for damaging straight-line wind reports since comprehensive record-keeping began in 1955. Since 1955. 71 years of records, and June 2026 has produced the second most wind reports of any comparable period in that entire archive. Something snapped. That sentence is the only accurate description of what the data shows. Let me walk through what the official products are saying about the current and immediate future setup, because this is not just a retrospective on June 21st. The pattern is still active right now. The WPC's short-range forecast discussion from 3:26 a.m. EDT, Thursday, June 25th, the most recent on record, confirmed heavy rainfall and severe storms continue across portions of the central U.S. the next few days. An abundance of Gulf moisture and an unstable air mass will interact with a few slower-moving disturbances in frontal boundaries, setting the stage for several organized clusters of thunderstorms the next few days. Several organized clusters over the next few days. From a discussion issued June 25th, that puts us squarely inside that active window right now on June 27th, and the SPC's day 4 through 8 convective outlook issued at 3:09 a.m. CDT Thursday, June 25th, documents what comes next with specific and important language. For Sunday, June 28th, tomorrow, a strong mid-level jet streak is expected to round the base of the western Conus Trough and emerge across the northern plains. As this occurs, the Lee cyclone across eastern Colorado will deepen further and move northward into the northern plains. Continued northward moisture transport will result in strong to very strong instability ahead of the surface low across the northern plains. Forecast soundings show a very favorable environment and an uncapped air mass by evening. Severe storms are possible at some point Sunday afternoon to Sunday night across eastern North Dakota and into northwest Minnesota. This is the same Lee cyclogenesis mechanism, the same surface low developing on the eastern side of the Rockies beneath an ejecting upper-level trough that the WPC's extended forecast discussion from June 24th described as being driven by an anomalous upper low. That system is now arriving. The Lee cyclone is expected to deepen further. The northern plains are the target for Sunday. And the day 4 through 8 outlook's general pattern statement for the days that follow is the most important sentence in any current forecast product. Quote, beyond day 5, the upper level pattern becomes a bit more uncertain. Overall, a general pattern with a trough persisting over the northwest or northern Rockies and a ridge over the plains or Midwest seems most likely. Within this broader pattern, severe weather will be most likely from the northern Rockies to the northern plains, and also potentially on the eastern periphery of the upper ridge across the northeast. A trough persisting over the northwest or northern Rockies. The same trough feature, the same configuration, persisting. Not temporary, not passing through, persisting. That is the SPC's medium-range assessment of the fundamental character of the atmospheric pattern entering July. A trough anchored over the northwest, repeatedly ejecting disturbances southward and eastward, driving repeated surface cyclogenesis on the plains, pulling Gulf moisture northward into the storm corridor, and producing severe storms from the northern Rockies to the northern plains on an ongoing basis. I want to go back to June 17th for a moment because what happened that day and what the NWS wrote about it afterward is the most technically precise documentation of what has been driving this entire stretch. The NWS Lincoln, Illinois office published its storm analysis for June 17th with a specific description of the synoptic pattern that deserves to be read in full. Mid-morning water vapor imagery showed an unseasonably deep upper low centered over northern Manitoba and Ontario, while a vigorous polar jet stream was noted on the southwest periphery of the low. This type of synoptic pattern is more typical of April rather than June and resulted in unusually strong mid and upper level winds across the northern plains into the Midwest. In addition, a series of curls embedded within the jet stream from North Dakota to Wisconsin provided additional synoptic lift. More typical of April rather than June, that is the NWS itself documenting that the atmosphere on June 17th was operating with a jet stream configuration and upper-level forcing structure that does not normally exist in mid-June. The deep layer shear values that day were 50 to 70 knots. The 0-1 kilometer shear was maximized at 45 to 50 knots near the warm front across northern Missouri and far southern Iowa. The SB Cape in the Missouri warm sector reached 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram by 2 p.m. And hail larger than baseballs, 3-inch diameter hailstones, was confirmed across portions of Moultrie, Douglas, and Coles counties in Illinois. June 17th produced an April-like atmospheric configuration. Then June 21st produced the 3-death derecho and tornado outbreak. And the current day 4 through 8 outlook is now flagging a strong mid-level jet streak rounding the base of the western trough on Sunday, a deepening Lee cyclone, strong to very strong instability ahead of the surface low, and an uncapped air mass by evening. The atmosphere that snapped in June 2026 did not snap back to normal after June 17th. It did not snap back after June 21st. The SPC is explicitly forecasting it to persist. A trough over the northwest, severe weather from the northern Rockies to the northern plains, within a pattern where individual shortwave troughs keep the threat active and the exact magnitude and timing remain the primary uncertainty. The snap is not a single event. It is a new state. Here is the piece of this season that has received almost no analytical coverage, despite being one of its most consequential structural threats. Fox Weather's reporting confirmed that June 1st through 16 produced the second fastest start for damaging straight-line wind reports since 1955. Wind reports, not tornado reports. The distinction matters enormously for infrastructure. Tornadoes produce narrow, concentrated damage tracks. The power grid, the road network, the communication infrastructure can route around tornado damage because the affected path is typically narrow. Derechos and widespread severe wind events are different. They produce damage across hundreds of miles simultaneously knocking out power to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers across a broad geographic area at once. CNN confirmed this directly in their June 21st coverage. Tens of thousands of customers were without power after the derecho and tornado outbreak as power lines and trees came down across a wide area from Kansas through Oklahoma and from Illinois through Indiana simultaneously. A BNSF train derailed in Woodward County, Oklahoma. Emergency crews mobilized across multiple states at once. When you produce the second fastest start for damaging straight-line wind reports in 71 years of records, and the season is not over, with the pattern explicitly forecast to persist through the northwest northern Rockies trough into July, you are accumulating infrastructure stress at a rate the grid maintenance and repair system was not designed to sustain continuously. Crews that restored power from one event are being sent to the next. Equipment that was repaired or replaced after April's outbreaks is being hit again in June. And the transmission infrastructure across the Illinois-Indiana-Ohio corridor that has been the season's most active severe weather zone is being tested repeatedly with insufficient recovery time between events. Zone is being tested repeatedly with insufficient recovery time between events. That is not a weather story. That is an infrastructure resilience story with real consequences for hospitals, water treatment facilities, telecommunications networks, and the millions of people who depend on reliable power through a summer that, per the WPC's own forecast, is going to continue delivering organized clusters of thunderstorms for the foreseeable future. Let me place June 27, 2026 in the full seasonal context. because the numbers are significant enough to say plainly. Illinois has 149 confirmed tornadoes as of June 17th, a new all-time state record, breaking 2024's previous record of 142. With the outbreak of June 21st adding more, and with the pattern active through the end of June, Illinois' 2026 total may end up being the highest single-year state tornado count in American history. The NWS Chicago documented that, through April 19th alone, their forecast area had seen severe weather outlooked on 15 separate days, including an unusual number at enhanced or higher. The NWS called the corridor from eastern Iowa into southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois remarkably active. The Wikipedia 2026 tornado season documentation confirms 223 June tornadoes with 4 days remaining, already above the June monthly average of 212. The Fox Weather Wind Report data shows the second fastest start for damaging straight-line wind reports since 1955. The CNN coverage confirmed 3 deaths on a single night from a combined tornado and a derecho event, with homes reduced to rubble, a chapel destroyed, and a freight train derailed. And through all of it, an EF4 in Enid in April, 89 tornadoes in the April 23rd to 28 outbreak, a PDS tornado watch and tornado emergency in Nebraska in May, 19 tornadoes on May 18th, 3 deaths on June 21st, a state record shattered in Illinois, and the second fastest wind report start in 71 years. The Storm Prediction Center has issued exactly 0 high-risk days in 2026. That fact deserves to be stated plainly. 0 high-risk days. Not because the parameters have not been there, not because individual events have not been severe, but because the SPC's threshold for a high risk requires a specific convergence of coverage, confidence, and storm mode that has, so far, been approached repeatedly and reached 0 times. The gun is still loaded. The season that snapped the Illinois tornado record produced the second fastest wind damage start in 71 years, and is being described by the SPC's own day 4 through 8 outlook as persisting in an active configuration into July, has not yet produced its highest confidence, highest coverage, most organized single day. That is the thing about a pattern that has snapped. It does not tell you when it is done. It just keeps going. Let me be direct about what the current and near-term pattern requires from the people watching this. If you live in the northern plains, eastern North Dakota, northwest, Minnesota, the Montana-South Dakota-Wyoming border region, Sunday is your active window. The SPC has flagged a strong mid-level jet streak emerging across the northern plains Sunday, a deepening Lee cyclone, strong to very strong instability, and an uncapped air mass by evening. Severe storms are possible. Sunday afternoon into Sunday night. Know your shelter. Have your alerts active before Sunday afternoon. Do not wait for a watch to start watching the radar. If you live anywhere in the Midwest corridor from Iowa through Illinois, Indiana, and into Ohio, you're in the region the SPC's persistent pattern forecast identifies as repeatedly threatened through the foreseeable future. The corridor from eastern Iowa into southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois has been, in the NWS Chicago's own words, remarkably active. That characterization has not changed. Each new disturbance in the persisting northwest trough will spin off another round of organized severe weather over this corridor. Your threat is not a single event. It is a sustained elevated state of risk through the first weeks of July at minimum. For the infrastructure dependent and vulnerable, hospitals, dialysis centers, assisted living facilities, and anyone dependent on electrical power for medical equipment in the Illinois-Indiana-Ohio corridor, the pace of wind damage events this season should prompt a serious reassessment of backup power capacity and duration. Crew restoration times after each successive event in the same geography are getting longer because maintenance infrastructure is being stretched. Do not assume restoration will happen within the first 24 hours after the next significant event. For everyone watching the broader pattern, the SPC's explicit day 4 through 8 language is a general pattern with a trough persisting over the northwest or northern Rockies and a ridge. Over the plains or Midwest seems most likely for the foreseeable future. Within this broader pattern, severe weather will be most likely from the northern Rockies to the northern plains, and also potentially on the eastern periphery of the upper ridge across the northeast. That is the pattern you're living in right now. It has produced the second fastest wind damage start in 71 years. It has shattered the Illinois tornado record. It has delivered 3 deaths in a single night from a tornado and derecho combination, and the SPC says it is persisting. Stay informed every day. Check the SPC Outlook every morning. Know your shelter. Have your weather radio set to alarm for your county. And understand that the quiet moments in this pattern are not signals that it is over. They are the atmosphere reloading. 223 tornadoes in June 2026, already above the monthly average with 4 days left. Illinois alone with 149 confirmed tornadoes as of June 17th, breaking the state's all-time annual record. The second fastest start for damaging straight-line wind reports since records began in 1955. 3 deaths and a derailed freight train on a single night from a combined tornado and derecho event. And a SPC day 4 through 8, outlook explicitly describing a trough persisting over the Northwest or Northern Rockies as the dominant pattern feature, driving severe storms from the Northern Rockies to the Northern Plains and the Northeast for the foreseeable future. The NWS called June 17th's synoptic pattern more typical of April than June. The SPC described the upcoming days with the same language it has used for the most dangerous setups of the year. The WPC described an abundance of Gulf moisture producing organized clusters of thunderstorms for the next few days. And through all of it, 0 high-risk days in 2026. Something snapped in the American atmosphere in June 2026. The data says it has not snapped back. And the pattern forecast says it is not going to. Not yet. Not this weekend. Not in the first days of July. It is getting worse.